Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Hello, Gowdy.
Hello.
How was your tour this weekend?
It was very, very nice.
I
Got to do a big loop starting from Whistler all the way back around, coming back through Hope.
Did you go through the Pemberton area?
Pemberton, yeah.
It's been so long since I've been there, and it's just absolutely beautiful up there.
It's quite a bit of snow out there too.
Oh, is it still snow up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the show, everybody. It's going to be lots to cover today. We have Bertrand de Windt on. He is, let me try not to butcher his bio. I'm actually going to let him outline it. But to give you an idea, he's got a degree in industrial psychology. He's worked as an HR manager for some of the major mining companies. He is going to be talking about, well, for one, he's got some crazy stories about his time in the mining industry, which is going to be fun to listen to. But he's also talking about the effects of all these shutdowns as working from home. I'm sure you know personally that there's been some effects from that. So it's going to be a very interesting. It's really going to be heavily into the mining industry, but it's also going to be what's happening in our living rooms working from home. So going to be an interesting show. Gowdy, who is going to be bringing us the show today?
Awesome. Okay, so first up, we've got Innoventa. Excuse me. Innoventa Group of Companies is presenting a panel on May 19th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The topic is out of the box thinking, how IoT technologies enable mine transformation to future proof operations. Abstract, mining is undergoing a shift towards Industry 4.0 and is experiencing new challenges and benefits. As this shift occurs, mines are finding new opportunities to improve production, safety, and cost savings. Technological change is here, and early implementation has risks, but waiting has the greater risk of leaving you at a competitive disadvantage. Join them to discuss and prepare for the impacts and benefits of Industry 4.0. The session will give insight into the opportunities currently available and what is next from top innovation companies in the mining industry. It is free, virtual, and panelists include Trang Tran Valad, Forte, Glenn Deganes, Bestech, Ron Bose, and XPS. Moderator is Don Duval from NORCAT. If you would like more information, you can check out their social media link on LinkedIn, which we'll have the link in the description, or you can reach out to Alyssa_Sabarin at innoventa.com. Next up, we also have Savinaw Equipment. Savinaw Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savinawequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And of course, we also have Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, please don't forget to register to CIM 2021 Convention and Expo. It's coming to you this May, which is May 3rd to 6th. And this is a virtual event, so it's never been easier to attend. Get insight from industry leaders like Anglo American's Mark Kutfani, Caterpillar's Denise Johnson, Torx Gold's Jody Kuzenko, and many more. Explore mining operations through virtual site tours, find the solutions and the expertise you need with technical talks, Q&A sessions, and of course, the CIM Expo, Canada's mining marketplace. Again, it's May 3rd to 6th, and you can register today at CIM.org.
Thank you very much, Gowdy. We mentioned on the last show, and I'm going to mention it again. CIM donated a booth to Mining for Miracles, the show. So make sure when you log in and are participating in this event, you check out the Mining for Miracles booth, because they are doing some great things for the BC Children's Hospital Foundation.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay. Bertrand, I pretty much butchered your intro. I didn't mention that you were that you were the CEO and director of Step Up Consulting, and that you're also a black belt in Six Sigma. So my apologies for that. We've got a lot to cover today, so thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Jared, for having me here at the Craftsman Partners show, Mining Now, and I'm really excited to be here.
Well, we certainly got a lot to cover. I'm going to cover something just completely for personal, selfish reasons. I noticed on LinkedIn it says you're the first board university chess team national. So you're a chess player.
I am a chess player. I play amateur, but I was part of the Dominican team, and I play in a couple of Olympiads, student Olympiads, and international tournaments all over the place. So nowadays, it's a very very handy skill. It makes you a little bit more strategic and loving tactics, making sure that you can get things accomplished.
It's a great game. I play it very, very poorly, but in all fairness, I've just started to really learn it the last few months. So I noticed that you were on there. You might have to teach me a few things.
It'll be my pleasure.
Don't say that too quick. Okay.
That was my first job. I was a chess teacher for a while at the military school.
Really?
I don't put that in my resume anymore.
That's really interesting. So you played a lot of chess then?
I did. But after I married, with professions and children in the way, it was kind of hard because chess is worse than a family. It takes out of you everything. You have to give it everything to be really good.
Yeah, well, I thought there's a quote from Einstein. It's like something about that it takes over the mind. And if Einstein's saying that, you better look out playing that game.
Absolutely.
Okay, Bertrand, you've done so much in the industry, so it's I think I'm going to start with the Six Sigma because you said you're approaching it from a corporate responsibility side, and I've always thought of Six Sigma because I have a limited knowledge about it. I always thought of it as a manufacturing tool. So how are you applying it in your application?
Well, it's really simple. It's just making sure that you can think a little bit out of the box, and because both manufacturing, production, mining are processes, and the corporate social responsibility is also a process with a lot of steps, results, inputs, and what you do is you apply the Six Sigma technology to make sure that you master that process and you understand very clearly what the customer wants. And your customer are usually your stakeholders. And you need to understand what are they looking for? What are they after? What do they need? It's the same as in the organization. If you are, let's say, in the mine and you have to give some product to the mill, you have to understand what your customer wants. And in communities and corporate social responsibility, you have to look at your stakeholders and analyze what do they require? What is important for them to be part of this process and make sure that they are engaged and they are really a part of it.
I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question. I think you'll have an easier time answering, but for me, if I picture now, like let's say a mine is going into a community. Now, is your approach saying that there is a step-by-step process? And I will loop it back. It wasn't completely selfish for using the chess example, or people know you play chess. But
Right.
chess, there's a strategy, but there's also the shift of focus can completely change each game depending on how your opponent plays. So when you're going into a community, is Six Sigma to the point where you've got 100 step checklist that you're doing, or is it a mindset? Sort of, can you unpack what it is, using the example if a mine is going into a community?
Yes, absolutely. And it's a long process. Mining is a very long-term process. And it takes a lot of steps, not necessarily a lot of very little steps, but some a set of steps, that you have to accomplish. And for instance, I can tell you about my time when I was working for Falconbridge, and Falconbridge went into a joint venture with BHP to operate the Gag Island nickel project. It was in a remote island in Indonesia, in the Sorong province, and there was about 840 people living in that community, and that community was sitting right on top of the mineral deposit. So imagine all the challenges for going and trying to exploit that resources. So I learned a very important lessons from Falconbridge, and the first thing they did is they sent the environmental specialist and the human resources and community specialist, which was me in that time. So we were the first two people that planted foot in that island and start understanding the community, their issues, what was important for them, their traditions. There was a lot of complications. They were a Muslim community sitting in a Christian region to start out. There was malaria that was prevalent in the island. So there was all kinds of issues. So what we had to do first is understand what the community was, what they were requiring, what are their needs, and how we can start building a partnership with that community in order to be able to, in 20 years, exploit that mineral resource. So that's a little example of how you can start, looking at your stakeholders to understand what are their needs. And I nowadays I use all kinds of tools like the House of Quality, which is a very interesting tool that permits you to rank in order what are the key needs or requirement of the stakeholders. So it's either, and we people, we have the same needs all over the place. It doesn't matter if you are at the end of the world or if you are in New York City, your needs are the same. You need to be healthy. You need to have food. You need to have friends, all these kind of things. So, it's like the Maslow hierarchy of needs. You start with safety. You need to be safety. You need to feel secure. And then you go on self-esteem, self-realization, going up on the pyramid to other things that you need. Right.
So, and I think you are unpacking my question is that, so when you come into that now, how long ago was that where you went into Indonesia?
That was in 2000.
In 2000. So not so long ago, but you obviously had a lot of experiences since then. Did you bring specific tools there? Like driving a car. It's like you get trained at first, you learn how to do it, but then you just do it without thinking of it. You put the brakes on, you just know when to do it. When you go in there, or do you come in with a playbook going, okay, I need this list of needs that they have. I need to talk to people from these different sort of that have this sort of influence on the community. Like, is there an actual playbook that ties in with Six Sigma and the psychology of it and all that? I'm just trying to understand that.
Yes, indeed. There's a very interesting, let's say, playbook, and I won't explain it today because that's going to be part of one of my presentations at the CIM conference in Montreal in May. It's going to be virtual, but
Perfect.
So in that presentation, I'm going to explain step by step all the playbook. But I can tell you one of the first steps of the playbook is looking at the community, the stakeholder analysis. Okay, stakeholder matrix, the House of Quality. So there are some specific tools that we have learned to use to understand better people. But that being said, nothing replaces the human touch. Meaning the connection that you have to establish between you as the representative of the mining and the community. So if you don't have empathy, if you don't have love for mankind or for your peers, your other people, then nothing works.
You think you mentioned that and I talked to you off air, and you said basically we're okay with me sort of expanding on my questions. And do you think that you need to have empathy to be able to go into a community? You said it was a Muslim community in Indonesia. Do you think you need to have some sort of deep connection to that culture and to that religion and to that region, or can you go in there as a complete outsider and still connect with that community?
I think you can go as a complete outsider and still have a connection with that, because you have the key element, and is the like for your humankind people. So if you have a love for people, and you understand people, you're going to be able to connect no matter what your religion, no matter what your culture, no matter what your upbringing, because you have the base avenue to reach that person.
Yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall in one day if you're ever going to those communities. Somehow let me tag along. Bertrand, we're going to talk later on the show. We're going to talk about the psychology of what people are going through working from home. You mentioned your presentation that you're going to be doing at CIM. I really hope people take time to spend those few days, because there's some of the presenters that they've got set up for that is just, it's going to be absolutely, the amount of knowledge is going to be unbelievable. But sticking with this for a moment, are there some examples of and I don't, it's not that I want to pick on anybody, but I think it's important. Are there examples of companies who have done it well? You just mentioned you were working when you went into Indonesia, and companies that have dropped the ball when it comes to that corporate, and that social responsibility of coming in, and not just from not from the news statement, oh, they failed.
Right.
I mean more from the process side, where they just approached it wrong, and it could have been done different. Is there anything that you could sort of set up for us?
Yep, absolutely. And by mentioning some mining name is not, let's say, interested in any way. It's just part of the examples I lead in my career in mining. As I mentioned, I started with Falconbridge, that Canadian mining powerhouse of the 80s and 90s, and they really had a really good way, and they had a couple of mines that are a remarkable example of doing things right. One of them is the Raglan mine in northern Quebec in the Inuit region. And not only all the technological challenges of having a camp and a mine in an Arctic zone, but to be able to get in there and understand the Inuit community and understand the culture, and being able to put together a mining operation, being fully staffed or mainly staffed by the Inuit people. So that was really is a very good example. I think it was the first one that we used, and we use a lot of the model of Raglan, all the respect for the culture, the understanding of the people and stuff. So I think that was a fantastic experience, and that experience was replicated in New Caledonia, which is in the Pacific out there, close to New Zealand, and New Caledonia, they pull a mining project against all odds. And one of the things that they did, and thinking out of the box, and that's very important in community development and understanding and getting the support of the community. is that you have to think out of the box and understand those needs and go beyond what is, let's say, the norm. And the thing that Falconbridge did that allowed that operation to go was they were able to give a 51% stake on the operation, something that usually a mining company doesn't do. You want to make sure that you have control and that you got, the majority and that stuff. And sometimes that's what kills the project.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a very interesting one. And New Caledonia, the Koniambo project was a big challenge, a huge challenge technologically. And Falconbridge brought a lot of innovation there. They brought some technologies from the cement industry into mining to create that. And it has been hit and miss, but it has been operating ever since in the early 2000s, and it's still operating successfully, managed now by Glencore. It was managed by Xstrata after Falconbridge, and then Glencore. And it's a very good project. It has a lot of even environmental challenges, because the lagoon in New Caledonia has one of the most pristine corals in the whole Pacific, similar to the Raja Ampat where Gag Island was. And that project, the Gag Island project, never happened because there was no space where to put the tailings. And the option for that was deep sea tailings, which was something that at that time was possible, but really looking forward from there, it was not viable, because deep sea tailing was a very controversial methodology. And both BHP and Falconbridge preferred to shelve the project, although there was other issues, like BHP got together with Billington, and the Falconbridge was not so important for what they wanted. But the project never went. Indonesia declared it a protected forestry, and after that, the interest was lost in the project, because cost-wise, it will have been almost impossible to bring it to production.
You have because if you're working for a company and then you're going into a community, you're trying to build this relationship with the community and bridge those gaps, get an agreement, and ultimately the goal for you is to get the mine to operating. That's what the government required you to do. But have you found it in your career, and are there examples where you're going through that process, but have you felt that the mine that has brought you into that location is approaching it wrong, and it's really you're sort of, it hasn't got the result you want because their approach isn't right?
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned that we were going to be talking about some stories, and there's some stories that I can tell, and it cost me my jobs a couple of times. It's and I'm proud to say it, that because you know what, you don't have to be in agreement 100% with top management, and you have to understand, and you have to tell them what it is. And I wrote a paper in 2012. It's a very little paper. It's one page. It's called about practical ways to improve relations with the community to fulfill your social responsibility. And I think I provided you the link, and if not, I give it to you. But if you follow those steps, you can make absolutely sure that you're going to get the support of the community, and you're going to come to the right decision, because the right decision is not always to get the mine into operation. And we have a couple of examples. Pascualama, a project for Barrick in the border of Argentina and Chile, in a pristine region of the Andes. And I think a few months ago, finally, the Supreme Court of Chile just said the project is dead for good. So the Supreme Court ordered that project can never happen in Chilean soil. Now, they still have the Argentinian side, but if you can get the message, wow, the Supreme Court of Chile is saying, that project is not going. So what are the probabilities that it will go on the Argentinian side? So, that's an example of where communities and even the legal powers take the initiative to determine if a project is good or is convenient for the society at this time, because we can always talk about time, because sometimes we don't have the technology, we don't have the way to do it in a feasible or sustainable way.
If you don't mind me asking, have you ever had a community, just a local communities or something, the powers that be just say it's time to go? Have you ever been in those situations? I mean, I know there's the stories up there. I mean, they made movies about it, where the community or politically it just gets to a point. I mean, I know you've worked all over the world, so I'm sort of interested if some of these crazy stories. Are you allowed to tell any of them?
Yeah, I'm allowed to tell them some of that, because they're a story that they happened to me. Like
Yeah.
I was running to preserve my neck sometimes, because if I stay there, I could be in very harm's way. And one example was the Conga project and the Cerro Killich, which is hardly mentioned, but Cerro Killich, there was it was a Newmont project in Cajamarca, and it get politicized. There was a lot of strikes of the population. The politicians kind of manipulated in a way the process. So it got pretty nasty, and I uploaded a few pictures in there about some of the the airports landing in the Cajamarca airport to evacuate all the expat. That was November 2011, and the population in the streets, on general strikes. And I remember that I was trying to leave. I was not with Newmont at that time. I have just left Newmont, and I was trying to leave the country. I couldn't. When I got to the airport was taken by the special forces, and I had to do a Good Samaritan act. There was an American there from South Dakota, and he was charging against the military because he wanted to go into the airport. And he didn't understand what was happening. He didn't speak Spanish or anything like that. It was a retiree and stuff. So I kind of, grab him and tell, hey, hold on, come with me. And I took him home. and we had lunch at home. And I explained him what was it. Hey, no, this is different. This is a different culture. You can't do that. You cannot, charge against the police. They are courting the airport because there's no flights in and out. The only things they have is military flights at this point. So we had to go through the bushes to get back home because all the roads were blockaded and stuff, and they throw stones to our car and all that kind of stuff. But we finally made it home, safe and sound.
What's there's probably a lot of questions I could ask about what's happening when all that, what is going through your mind when all that is happening. But what's going through your mind when it's over, when you're back home, safe and sound? What is the next morning you wake up and you're having breakfast and sort of recalibrating all that's gone on. What's going through your mind?
Well, the night before you have a good pisco sour so you can sleep. And the day after, yes, you go through and say, "Wow, it was close. It was a close call." Yeah. So, but the good thing is, and that's something that you always have to have into account. You have to have the right people, And at that day, we had the right driver. And it was a taxi that we trusted, and that person knew everywhere. He knew the community and everything, and he managed to drive us through safety. So it's very important for you to make sure that you have the right people in your team. Okay, so
actually, and
that's the most important thing.
You know, it's actually funny that you said about the right people, because one of the thoughts that came to my mind, talking to you, and I've talked to you off camera, that you do have empathy. You have it's obvious you have an interest in people. You have, there's a certain accountability that you hold mining companies to, but yet you're still working in the industry, trying to get the mining industry ahead. And it was something that came to my mind is if I was a CEO listening to this, and I can even put myself in this category, some people naturally don't have a deep sense of empathy. They don't always connect with people at a level like someone like yourself can. Maybe it's because of their training, maybe it's because of their personality, upbringing. There's all these different reasons. What advice would you give? Would it come down to get somebody that can and stay away from the front lines? Because I know there's someone listening that goes, I could not go into a community in Indonesia and it would just be a disaster. And again, I probably put myself in that category. I just don't know if I would have that ability to show that empathy and walk through that process. So if leadership is not like that, what's the key? Is it someone like you got the driver to get you out? Someone like you to come in the community? Is that the only way to do it?
Well, it's not the only way, but if you're a leader, if you're the leader, you have to lead. You have to show. I think there was a leadership system from DuPont, maybe 20 years ago, the FELT system, and it says if you're going to be the CEO, you have to be there. You have to be in contact with your people. You have to be in contact with your stakeholders. You need to do it. But the problem, and there's some people that have it and some people that don't, is arrogance. Unfortunately, we as miners, we can move mountains, we can build things incredible and stuff like that. And you can't stop getting certain arrogance with that, because you're so mighty, you can do so many things that wow, this is you feel like Superman, right? But you need to accompany that is that balance, that balance, the yin and the yang that you have to have. You may feel powerful and great, but you have to have that humility, that there are things that are beyond your capabilities. And if you don't understand that, you need to make sure that you get the right people, the right team, and you have to be open to listen to, let's say, honest feedback. Mm-hmm. And some of the issues is that some people don't like to hear what they don't agree with, or that it produces a cognitive dissonance in you sometimes. If I tell you something that is very much against what you believe, you're certainly gonna reject it. Yeah. And some CEOs, I have seen that in strategic planning meetings and stuff like that, they just refuse to listen. And I have been in the position a couple of times, having to tell them, why don't we take a longer term approach, like a 5-year? We need to understand better this community. We need to go in and find out what are the issues. And sometimes what happens is, you probably have heard saying that you put a lock after somebody robbed you. No, and that's what happens sometimes in the mining industry. You go and you made a mistake, and then you're trying to do the studies and stuff, but then it's sometimes too late, because once you fail the first time, or you let's say embarrass or damage the community relations and the trust, it's almost impossible to recover.
This is Bertrand. I'm going to try to ask this question, and I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an executive that would be talking to you, trying to make these decisions. If you are, maybe I'll even go back to chess to try to use my example. If you, is it easier to have empathy and work with a community and plan better if you have the tools in place? In the way I mean, like in chess, there's all these creative moves, but you need to be things like protecting your pieces, like just basic stuff that you just need to do. If you don't do that, all the creativity will just fall apart.
Yeah.
Is like, you can even have good intentions. You could be a leader with a ton of empathy, but if you don't have the right tools, it'll still fall apart. Is that, when you're coming in, are you continuously trying to find all these balances as a leader, as executives? Are they, and again, I'm kind of butchering this question. I know what I'm asking, but I can't quite put it all together. Is, how do these leaders, how do they put it all together? They've got to show empathy, but they've got to have a strategy. They've also got to answer to their shareholders. Like, it's easy to say, oh, they're doing this wrong and this wrong, but they're in a very tough position.
Yeah.
Where do you start with them when you're talking to them? Where does the conversation even begin?
Yeah. Well, you nail it right. We have in chess, we have a lot of playbooks. You need to understand your openings, okay? Because that's going to save you a lot of time. So in community relations, is very much the same. In your opening, you have to follow your playbook. You have to, those let's say openings have been studied tremendously. So if you don't know them, you're gonna, have to reinvent the wheel every time you play chess. Okay, so the same with a CEO. If you don't use, you don't have to know it yourself, but you have to have the people, the team that really understand and can do it. You have to, let's say, hire the right consultants, hire the right employees that knows and understand these kind of things, and you have to have a diverse and inclusive team. I know nowadays everybody talk about this, but it is really important in terms of communities. You need to understand and bring people from different angles, and you're going to find all kinds of elements in the community, and you need to deal with them. So you need your playbook, and you need the right people to execute that playbook in that process. And unfortunately, nowadays it's really hard because I think we don't do enough to promote the mining industry. And I can tell you, I have true love for the mining industry. I started in mining in the early 90s, 91, something like that. And I found a passion for the people, for the processes, surface mining, underground mining, smelters, mills, the people working in there and making sure that we have the resources that we need to progress in life. Civilization is built on mining, and we don't have to convince anyone of the importance of mining. But unfortunately, one of the issues we have in mining is we're very bad at communicating. And sometimes when we have good people communicating, we commit atrocities and let them go because we don't like all that information that sometimes exposes us, and is a combination of sometimes our own arrogance, our own pride, as huge miners, big captains or great superintendents and stuff like that we are, and somebody telling us straight through into our face. You say, hey, but that's it. We are not perfect. We're not perfect beings. That's why we work much better when we have a good team, a good organization to do things.
I'm going to completely change gears on you, but I don't think completely, actually. Partially change gears on you, Bertrand. We've talked a lot about teams. You have the right people and communication skills. So I'd say talking 2 years ago, that would be a different conversation than it is today, because we are doing it virtually. People are working virtually. Leaders are leading virtually. It is a different world that we live in now. I mean, that we've literally been through a global shutdown and we're still going through it. Now we've got this interesting dynamic where in Texas, they just put 38,000 people in a stadium, and we don't have anybody in the stadiums. So there's all this stuff that's happening. You've worked in HR, you've worked in communities, you've worked with major mining companies. You've studied psychology. What is your perception of the effects? And I don't just want to talk about, because a lot of leaders do watch this show, not just the effects of people on their teams, but on the leaders themselves. What is your perception of the effects, and how we need to be approaching? Now that this is not 2 months anymore, we're into a year now. It's becoming almost a new normal.
Yes, a little bit over a year now. Wow.
I do not like that term, by the way, but now I just said it. But what are your thoughts? I'll let you kick off on that. What are your thoughts on it?
Right. Well, this process has been incredible, and definitely you have both huge challenges and incredible opportunities. And the challenges for like the leadership is that they are used to command and control from their offices. Okay. So you can go downtown Toronto and you're going to find all kinds of buildings and stuff for different companies where it's built around that, everything in there.
Right.
So this new normal of working from home has forced an incredible decentralization of things. And now the mechanism of control that we're used to use are different. So that creates a different kind of stress in us, because we don't have the same kind of handy control that we can do a quick call, come up here, and then I can use all my my personal things to influence and communicate.
Right.
Fully. Okay, so now we're trying to make changes. We're trying to use technologies, different technologies, Google, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, computers, all these kind of new things to allow that. And let me tell you, it's a great opportunity. For instance, for me here, trying to promote the mining industry, trying to create more tools of communications and more actual networks of people. This new normal is fantastic. Because I can reach out to people in New Zealand and reach to people in Madagascar or South America, Peru, and stuff, and put them together. I have to be mindful about the time zones, definitely, but before it was the same. But we have now new technology that allow us to connect to each other in a much better way. Now everybody is understanding that this is a new normal and it's a must. You need to understand this is a new set of skills and competency for you to be successful in mining now too. So, there's things that are not going to change. You're still going to need your huddle in mining. You're going to have your crew going out there mining and stuff like that. But you're going to have a new sort of system that is going to be around that and creating wireless networks among people and allowing us to be more connected in a way, not only personally. And I hope that this process is going to end at some point, and we will be able to then combine the two things, the old presence with the mighty wireless networks that are going to be able to help us reach out to more people. And that's why we're pushing a lot our initiative for the CIM Latin America now to make sure that we use this new normal as a good first step to reach out to a larger audience, to make sure that they understand and knows about the CIM and all the good things that we could do to make sure that we can have a good network of people, we have good camaraderie, and we can share much better all our knowledge and our technology from north to south, east to west. So this is for us, I think, is a great opportunity this way, because now you have you have a podcast, or you have a webinar, and you can have people from all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I will certainly not claim that this has been hard on our company. From a business standpoint, it's been great for our company. On the other hand, what about the people that are working from home? And I talked to my wife again. I should probably be careful of all these areas that I'm trying to go into. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. But
Yeah.
I'll maybe you can clean up my mess. There is I've noticed that, and especially I'll say on social media, when I know people personally, the people that are they're saying, they're basically accusing people of not being empathetic. They're that basically shaming people sometimes without using names, and talking about all the things that are wrong with the world. I know those people personally, and those quite often I find those people, from what I know of them, are actually not the kindest people, and generally quite selfish. The people that really do need help and support are usually quite silent, and because they're not venting, and sometimes they're just suffering alone, and it makes me sad even talking about it, but I know it's a reality. Are people suffering? Companies like ours. Oh, so if you're sitting at home working from home, your life is miserable, and there's kids. You're both two professionals trying to work from home. I see people and there's dogs running behind them, and then there's kids crying, and they're trying to run a meeting, and very tough. Are there people that are suffering from what you know, are there people that are suffering in silence on this, that really, maybe it's good from a business standpoint, but I mean, I saw a thing you wrote, that I didn't even know this. Cabin fever or mountain madness is a real thing. I didn't actually
Yes,
know it
yes.
was. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. And as I said, there's a lot of challenges that this new reality brought to a lot of people that are not used to this. And as you mentioned, working from home for extended periods of time can give you cabin fever or mountain madness. And this is something that had been studied since the early 1900s by psychologists in the Twin Cities and Minneapolis. And it has a lot of very specific signs that you can look, and there's a lot of people that are suffering this. And if you believe in your polling, and polling is kind of part of the new day-to-day things, you need to be making sure that you understand that. But in the midst of this process, probably let's say mid to 3/4 of the year last, there was a polling they made by McLean and Company, and they found out that about 58% of all the people have indicated that they have been very affected by having to work from home. 58%, very highly affected. So that's kind of the extreme. So only like 15% said that they were not affected at all.
So now again, and I think it's an important for people that are watching, and a lot of people are watching. I know it's from home. So what are some of the symptoms? Do you know of some of if someone is actually suffering from this?
Absolutely. Yeah. tiredness. You feel a lot more tired than normal. Inability to enjoy things. Okay? Struggling to keep work performance. Feeling physically unwell. You know, you don't feel good today. Don't want to do anything. You know, your relationship feels strained. You start fighting for everything, and you know, that's not good. Uh, Unable to prioritize, you know, your family, your breaks, you know, or take breaks. You start working like crazy, and until you're like practically falling apart. Insomnia, that happens. Depression, okay. Lack of hope. You don't think this is going to ever. You become impatient, irritable. These are the kind of signs that tell you that you are starting to suffer cabin fever.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for people as we sort of wrap up this interview? I mean, it doesn't seem like here in Canada anyway, this is going to end anytime soon. I know some other
Right.
countries, people contacts I have, it's more intense than in Canada. You know, I've taken up chess, I've taken up biking, but
Excellent.
but Gowdy comes in here a couple times a day. But essentially, I'm in the office here by myself. Gowdy, you're working from home. Um, what tips do you have for people? Are there some basic things that people can do just to take care of themselves as we try to get through
Oh,
this?
absolutely. Absolutely. And this is very important, you know, and you mentioned a couple of them that it's very important. I can tell you a couple of the things I have done. Okay. The first thing is you need to unplug once in a while. You need to change environment, you know, you need to meditate, you know, probably get a hobby like you said, chess or playing an instrument. Look what I have here. And I said, I need to learn this. The ukulele. I'm trying to learn that. So,
I thought you were going to start playing. I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Not yet. Maybe in the next show, eh?
Next show, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a very important thing. You know, you need to get some daylight and fresh air, especially now in the North Hemisphere that we're getting into the summer. This is the time to go out. Make sure you have to eat healthy food. Make sure, you know, it's very easy to fall into alcohol. It's very easy to smoke more than what you used to do and this kind of things. So, you know, try to stay away from that. Some other activities that are very important is biking. Biking is great. It's a good opportunity now. And dancing. Dancing is really good. You know that dancing is it's first, chess is second, but dancing is first at preventing memory loss, Alzheimer's, all these kind of things. If you do regular dancing, you're going to find a lot of really good things for your body and your mind.
Gowdy is so happy right now. Gowdy's a fan of everything you're saying, and I'm about the worst dancer. And I always joke, I'm about 6'4", so people will say, "Oh, people don't even notice." And I've seen 6'4" people that look like me out on a dance floor dancing, and it's noticeable when you're bad.
Well, you know, you don't be embarrassed. You know, in a camp, sometimes at 3,500 above sea level, you know, you usually have a very small room. And what I used to do, I put a couple of merengue musics from the Dominican Republic, and I'll do my dancing there. You know, you didn't have a chance in the whole day, so you do it even when you're in your room at 9 o'clock.
So have they actually done studies on? I'm going on all sorts of tangents here, but have they actually done studies on dancing?
Absolutely, you can find it in Google. Google it.
Of course,
it's amazing the impact of dancing.
But you're saying that it's actually studies have found that it's actually helpful with preventing memory loss.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh.
And I think it has to be you know, moving and the rhythmic has to do with the flow of blood into your brain and the coordination that you need to do when you're dancing. That's really good for that.
I think the coordination is what gets me right there, and the rhythm. I think the whole thing, actually, I really struggle with. Bertrand, you're going to be speaking at CIM. You're going to be unpacking. Did you say you're going to be unpacking more of those steps of Six Sigma?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's May 6th
Mhm.
is the Six Sigma supporting corporate social responsibility.
Okay. I think well in at the just as we wrap up, I'm going to put links so people can connect with you on LinkedIn and that just to make sure that. But I mean, I know it'll be on CIM's website, but to make sure that they catch it. I think they're going to record all these as well, so people can catch them later. Thank you for coming on the show. I feel like I just skimmed the surface on a lot of your knowledge, but I do appreciate you walking us through, some of these stories, and your experience is pretty amazing. Appreciate you coming on the show. I really do hope that you come back on because I think we can unpack a lot more together.
Well, Jared, it's been my pleasure. I really enjoy being able to have this conversation with you and trying to reach out to people and to tell them a lot about the wonders of mining and all the good things that can happen when you engage into mining, whether in a career or just as a supporter of mining, because we all need mining products for developing and for the quality of life that we all enjoy.
That's actually, I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to add
Go
one.
ahead.
When we tell stories, there's a positive stories and then there's a negative stories in mining, and everybody in the world, and I don't think that's an exaggeration, knows that negative stuff has happened in correlation with the mining industry. Do you think when someone like yourself comes on, or mining, even CEOs, if major mining CEOs and operators came on, do you think it would help the public if that transparency continues to, like a show like this, you don't have to log in to watch mining now. You just can Google it and it's there. Do you think that transparency will build support, or do you think it will, the part of the fear is that people will become more anti-mining? What do you think the results are when there's more transparency, more public conversations that people can take in?
I think transparency is never going to be wrong. You're going to be on the right side. You're going to be on the right side because you're telling the things the way it is. Now, if you want perfection, I always tell my team that the perfection is enemy of the good. But being transparent, being honest, you know, if you don't tell the truth, at least don't lie. Okay. So you have to be transparent. You have to explain. And unfortunately, one of the things that we have had in the history in mining, there has been a lot of damage. And if you look at our my point 7 on practical ways to improve relationship with the community, it says, finally, be patient. There's a lot of damage done in the past. Our record is not good. The process of mending things and becoming sustainable is long term. And we in mining may have the pressure of doing things for yesterday. It is like planting tree. The best time to do it was 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. So let's do it now. Let's do it today. Okay. If we want to start, we want to get fruit in 20 years, we have to start now. So let's start now. Let's do it. Let's continue talking about mining, and let's not be afraid of what people can say of what had happened. What have happened. Now we can only be responsible for what we do now and what we do in the future.
I think that's a perfect way to end the interview, Bertrand. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And I do hope we have you back on because I think we just scraped the surface today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. It's been great. Thank you, Gadi.
Okay. Thank you everybody for watching. I think I just looked at the time, Gowdy. I think that interview went a little longer than some of them.
I think so. A
Good.
little bit, yeah.
And I could have actually, I actually cut out some of my questions that I had for Bertrand. So where can people, we're going to put lots of links and everything to connect with him. There'll be links to CIM. Please check out CIM May 3rd to 6th.
Yes.
There is the amount of knowledge, and there is no exaggeration, the amount of knowledge that they are putting together from the industry is staggering. Gowdy, where can people follow our show, suggest guest sponsorship, what have you?
All right. Well, first up, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2 episodes a week on there. So again, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or The Crownsman Show. You can also follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and contact us if you want to be part of any one of our shows or would like to sponsor our shows, or know someone that should be on our show. Contact us, info@crownsman.com.
I like that last part of know someone, because we've been getting a lot of that lately.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And keep dancing.
And
That's yes.
and start dancing in my case. Hey, you got to learn something. Now that I've heard that, I'm not going to be able to just ignore it. I guess I'll have to figure something out.
Okay, the audience is my witness. Jared said it. And now he has to learn.
But I think we'll leave performing the ukulele with Bertrand will be better than my dancing. Let's put it that way. Thank you, everybody. See you on the next episode of Mining Now.